Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching Real Talks here. I'm Laura Van Veen, part of the Van Veen team out of Excel Realty in Chatham, Kent, and we are a full service brokerage, and we are trying to inform you guys, keep you guys up on the know about everything real estate. So everything from trends, buying and selling, and what you guys can do to get the most bang for your buck and keep the most dollars in your pocket. So today I've got another video for you. And I've talked a lot about selling lately, so I wanted to give you buyers out there a little video about the most common buyers' questions. So a lot of times we have repetitive questions over and over again, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, which I have an awesome video about. I will post the link in the comments about your video, or about how to buy a property. But here are some of the questions that I hear on repeats. So you know what, might as well hear them here. I'll give you guys the answers. And then if you want any further information about it, feel free to send me a PM, give me a call or a text anytime, or just leave a comment in the comment box below. Okay, so here we go. All right, what do I got? I got 9 questions for you today that I hear all the time. The first question kind of comes down to the first step, and that is, what is my first step to buying a home? The first step always, all my mortgage brokers that I work with have been clapping their hands lately with my videos, because I keep saying it over and over again. Your first step is go get pre-approved, guys. An offer isn't an offer without a pre-approval. Because if you don't know if you can get any money, how can you offer anything? How can you know what price range you're looking at? A lot of times people are actually really surprised that they can get more than what they thought. And it can be big and scary going to a bank, but you got to put on your big girl or big boy pants and just do it. Just go, get it done, guys. So go get your pre-approval done, then you know what you're looking for, what your price range is, what you can offer comfortably, and all of that good stuff. So that's number 1. And if you guys need names, I'll throw a bunch out to you. So just send me a PM. If you want to get the process started, then let me know, and I'll give you guys a few good people to go work with on that. And the number 2 thing is, how long will it take for me to get a house? So this is a little bit more of a variance kind of an answer, because it totally depends. So once you've got your pre-approval, which usually can take a week or 2 to get your pre-approval done, sometimes it can be a day, but sometimes it could take a little bit more time. So once you've got your pre-approval from a bank and you've got a piece of paper saying, hey, I can buy a house, then we go out looking. And some people look for a week, some people look for a day, some people look for months. And this depends on what your list is of your expectations in the house, what you want and you need, and how common those types of houses come up for sale. It also depends on how aggressive you're going to be when it comes to bidding on a house and putting an offer in on a house. In this market, you can't usually sit and wait for too long because places tend to go fairly quickly. Sorry, I've got some weird lighting going on. So that can mean one thing. The other thing is that your with the aggressive offers is a lot of times, especially first-time buyers, they'll go in and they'll try to offer too low, especially in a multiple offer kind of situation. And then they don't end up getting the house, and they do it a bunch of times, which takes up time, right? So it totally depends. I've seen people buy a house in a week. I've seen people buy a house. I've literally had one client, I think was maybe 3.5, 4 years that I was working with her. So it totally depends on you. When it comes down to that. As for closing, typical closings are usually between 4 and 6 weeks. So after you have agreed upon everything on your agreement of purchase and sale, and your conditions are met, so you've done your home inspection if you're doing one, and your final approval and your financing is done, and then usually it's 4 to 6 weeks after that is a typical. That being said, usually we can close within 2 weeks after everything's been waived. So that's what the lawyers kind of suggest as a very, very bare minimum. And keep in mind also that holidays can be included in that. So if it's a 2-week, but you've got a 2-day holiday in there, you're gonna have to tag on some time. So that's about as quick as we can do. That's a that's a very quick closing. Okay, so from say 3-week total process, 1 week buying the house and doing your conditions, 2-week close. You could be in 3 weeks, or it could take as long as you want it to take, really. The next one is number 3. What does a realtor do when buying a house? Like, can I just go to a bunch of open houses and then like talk to the person and buy one? You can. You can absolutely go out and go look at houses through open houses and things like that. But here in Chatham, we are in a seller's market, which means it is going to be extremely difficult if you don't have representation to get ahead of the deals, which is what you need to be doing. So my recommendation is you work with one realtor and somebody that you trust who's going to keep you in the know every time we get a listing and we see it on our little dings on our phone. We'll send it to you, let you know what's there instantly as soon as it hits the market, because you don't have time for that. You don't have time to be on the websites 24/7 looking at what's coming up every half an hour to beat the market. On top of which, us realtors are very frequently selling places before they hit the market in this market, because there's so many buyers waiting who have already been working with us and who are waiting for this perfect house. So if, you know, we go into a pre-list and we're like, whoa, I've got a buyer who like needs this house, a lot of times arrangements are happening before it even hits the market. So you really do need to be working with an agent. All of us agents talk to each other. We keep each other in the know of what we're looking for and what we need. And so a lot of times we're communicating with each other before it's hitting. So if you're only going to open houses, that house is usually sold before the open house, realistically. Or, you know, you're missing a bunch that could have been great for you because you're not even seeing them yet. So, so what we do is we get you in contact with the place. We're going to walk you through all the houses. We're going to point out any deficiencies that we see in the house that you should be aware of, first and foremost, that we can see without a home inspection. And we're going to make sure that in an offer that is done legally and that the negotiations are done fairly and everything is black and white. There's no gray areas. We're going to walk you through the process of your deposits, your down payments, all of your conditions that you need, financing, home inspection, and insurance, whether you need to sell something beforehand, what chattels you want, all of these different things. Get that into a contract, and then we're going to walk you through your conditional period, which is when you meet all of those conditions. We'll send through all the waivers, get everything sent to the lawyer, get you set up with a lawyer appointment so that you are ready to then go sign at the lawyer. We'll mediate with the lawyer, the mortgage broker, your insurance broker, to make sure everything comes together at the right time. And then upon closing, if there's anything that needs to happen, you know, we'll facilitate that with final walkthroughs, with making sure that all the T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. And then hopefully we'll get to give you the keys. Sometimes we get to give them to you. Sometimes the lawyers take that from us. And that's okay. So that's kind of what we do. And then the next question is always, okay, I want to work with a realtor, but how much are you gonna cost me? And this is when a lot of, especially first-time home buyers, are like really shocked when I say likely nothing. So the buyer's agent actually gets paid typically through the listing side. There are exceptions, but they're rare in Chatham. So when listing a house, the listing agent will, or the seller will discuss with the listing agent how much they're willing to offer for commission. And that commission is typically split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. So we're getting paid through that listing agent side. If you don't use your own representation, then what's going to end up happening is that listing agent is going to do the offer, and they would get both sides of the commission because they're representing both sides at that time. But then you're in something called multiple representation. And when you're in multiple representation, us agents have to be Switzerland. So we have a code of ethics we have to follow, and that means we cannot disclose any vital information that could impact the sale to benefit either side. So we basically just have to be regurgitations of the exact information that's on the paper. So we can explain what the terms are and conditions are, and you would have to then make up your mind about strategy on how you want to offer without any, or counter offer anything without any of our input, because we can't say anything. We have to kind of be like, nah. So to keep it fair for everybody, right? So anyways, that's another reason why it's good to have your own representation, because you'll get a lot more out of it. And a lot of times where they're trying to make you, know what to make sure that you feel secure in your actual the process and how much money you're dealing out, and that you're happy with results at the end. There's no second guessing. So what does it cost? It usually costs nothing, because we're usually getting paid through the seller's side, through the listing side. However, that being said, there is a rare occasion where they will say that any buyer's agents, if it's an exclusive listing, would have to be sold, would have to be paid through the buyer. And at that point, it is between your agent and you to discuss what payment will be. We would typically see this in a private sale situation, where there hasn't been any commissions negotiated, and say you guys want to use representation, but they don't want to allow representation into the house. Then it comes down to, do you want to pay me instead of us being paid, because we're not getting paid through the seller's side. So that's, so typically not going to cost you anything unless you get into a kind of a weird scenario there. Okay. Oh, the next one is just people asking me, what's your best advice? And my best advice when it comes to buying a house, I'm going to give it a two-part. Number one is have your pre-approval and know what you want. So that's kind of before you go out and look. Have your pre-approval done, discuss what you want, and try to be really clear as to what you want, because you'll get there faster if you're really clear as to what you want. And then my number two thing is just, you have to have the feeling. And maybe I'm mushy-gushy about this, but I think you have to have a feeling in a house. I think that you have to walk into the house and go like, yeah, this is it. It's just, to me, a lot of times the things on the checkoff list of what you want and what you need in a house, they get kind of thrown out the window when you walk into a house and you're like, this is it. Funny side note. Both places that I've bought with my partner John, both of them I saw beforehand and had already decided that we were buying it beforehand, before he even walked in the door, because of this feeling. So, the first one that we bought, we were supposed to go see together, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go see it because I have the day off. I'm just gonna go pre-see it. And at first I was like, I'm not gonna tell him I'm gonna go see it, and I'll just act surprised. And then we went to go, I went to go see the place, and I couldn't contain myself, so I sent him like a video of it. I'm like, I'm in this place, and look, this is where we are going to live. And then luckily he liked it, so that was good. And then the second place that we got, I was actually showing to my sister. And I was walking through the house. I'm like, you don't really like this house, right? Because you don't like it because I want it. Because I knew right away. And that's where we are today. That's in my house now. That is our forever place. So anyways, that's, sometimes you just know and you got to go with your gut. All right. So, the next one I've got is, what credit score do I need, to be able to get a mortgage? This is, again, it's like a tentative answer. The number that most mortgage lenders are looking for as a bare minimum is 620. So that's kind of your bare minimum. But keep in mind, based on your total debt ratio, based on how much you make, based on your debt load, your investment load, they might be looking for a higher one. It's just basically they have an equation of risk, and you have to match the equation of risk for them to be worth the investment. But the number you should be looking for if you're pulling your own credit, which you can do on most bank sites now. When you do your personal financing online, usually you can get a credit score now. Usually they're looking for a 620. Above a 650 is much better. Above a 7, awesome, good. All right, so next one. How much do I need for a down payment? That depends on how much money are you spending on our house. So usually it's 5% for a first home buyer. Again, this also depends on your lender. So I would say 5% is the bare minimum. So if you're buying a house that's 200,000, you need at least 10 grand. You need more money than that though, because you also need money for closings, which is our next kind of step. So bare minimum 5%, and then the more money you have to put down, the better mortgage you're gonna get. Usually the better rate you're gonna get, the quicker you're gonna get your approval. And also put down as much as what is going to make your payments, you know, like really manageable for you. So work with your mortgage broker with that. When you're doing your pre-approval, work with them on that a little bit to see what you're comfortable with. You also might want to hold back some money and keep it at a low down payment level so that you have room for improvements, things like that. So you can kind of play with it, but look for 5% for the first little bit. If you do go above 20%, then you avoid all kinds of fees with CMHC fees, which is like an insurance on the mortgage. So really good to, if you have over 20% and you've got a big down payment, you're in the gold. It's also a lot easier to get pre-approved then because they don't have to go through that CMHC for a second level approval. So what else do I have? What other fees? This is going along with it. So what other fees do you have other than your down payment? You're going to have your lawyer fees at the end. So first time home buyers, if you've never, and I mean like not like, hey, 20 years ago I bought a house, but I haven't for 20 years. No, that doesn't count. If you've never bought property, then you might be able to get the exemption from the land transfer tax, which is awesome because that saves you a lot of money upon closing. But you will have lawyer fees and then other minor disbursements. So things like if you're closing in the middle of the month and the property taxes are paid on the first of the month, then you might have to pay from the 15th until the end of the month a disbursement of said dollars, probably like $250 or something to close that. You'll also need to pay your lawyer. Every lawyer is different. Call your lawyers. People like to ask me about how much the lawyers are, and I always say call the lawyers because they're all a little bit different. So some of them have a flat rate for your closing procedures plus anything that comes up, but bank on a few grand as an extra cost for closing the house. And then the last thing is, when do I get the keys? And a lot of people are really like confused with that. They think that once they waive their finance condition and their home inspection condition, then all of a sudden they get the keys. You get the keys on the agreed upon closing date. So that is discussed when you put in an offer on the house. Then we discuss what closing date you guys are going to have, and you get the keys on the closing date, usually in the afternoon. Typically they'll close the house by about lunchtime and then transfer everything over, and the lawyer will call you and say it's closed, you can come get the keys, and then you go and get them sometimes after lunchtime on closing day. Now that being said, the seller's end usually has until about 6 o'clock to get out and get their moving trucks out of out of the way. A lot of times people have moved out beforehand, but just keep that in mind that you might be running into each other upon closing day. So guys, that's it. That's my most common buyer questions. If you have any questions that I missed, then drop them in the comments or send me a PM and we'll get talking about it. So I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I enjoy being your information agent and keeping this information going and trying to educate you guys. And I hope you guys are enjoying them as much as I'm enjoying doing them. And so as always, Laura Van Veen signing off here from the Van Veen team with Excel Realty in Chatham, and I hope you guys keep enjoying Chatham Cats.